Companies use virtual cards to drive a bigger outcome, and oftentimes a corporate works with their bank to issue cards to suppliers. And the main reason that companies are doing this in the US also is for rebates. So as a supplier swipes a card or processes that transaction, it creates new income for the corporate. But also there's a working capital benefit. Just like a personal credit card, whenever a supplier is paid via card, the corporate gets 30 days, 15 days, 45 days, whatever they've made available with their bank of additional working capital. So if you're a CFO and you're looking at ways to move your KPIs, virtual cards are a way that you can either create revenue or create working capital. A virtual card solution traditionally works whenever a bank and a corporate decide there's going to be a card program. The bank often underwrites the card program, and then the corporate is set up to where they can pay suppliers via a card network like Visa or MasterCard. Now, the traditional setup is very much where once a supplier has opted in to receive a payment via card, sometimes for better payment terms or other reasons, that then the corporate sends a file to the bank whenever the payments are due, and the bank will process that with a card number to pay the supplier. Now at Taulia, we think that this foundational program does not need to be changed. The relationship between the corporate and the house bank should stay strong, but we feel like technology can bring two specific value points to it that's not there today. The first one is using big data and supplier acceptance. How can we look at multiple data sources to find first additional suppliers to accept, but then also use user experience to help suppliers accept those payments in the best way that they prefer to get that money into their bank account. The second piece is reconciliation. Taulia being a company that's embedded inside of the ERP, how can we really move and look at reconciliation to bring all the data into one place and then allow for that process to happen easily as payments go out and then payables need to be closed. These are two areas that on top of that core foundation, we believe that there's an opportunity for rethinking how the industry works today. The pain points of reconciliation center on the accounts payable persona, and this is really the unsung hero of the card program. In a card program, traditionally we think about the treasurer or the CFO, and they're getting the benefit of looking at the rebates or the working capital, but the moment that that card file is sent to the bank and payments are made to suppliers, everything after that is manual. And you have this accounts payable team who's looking at this card program, and it's growing, but also the headache is getting worse and worse. Now let's take a look at some of the pain points that happen on that journey that can cause that headache or migraine. The first one is whenever you are doing a card program, you want to automatically send that payment. And the way that Taulia has put this together is that Taulia has embedded in the ERP, and whenever that invoice is due at payment terms, we automatically generate that payment via the card network. It's no more manually sending or pushing buttons to make sure that your payments can scale. But once that payment's out into the wild, the next thing that we do is we look at automation. A technology company can do two things really well in reconciliation. The first one is automate rote tasks, and the second one is provide power tools for the jobs to be done that require analysis. And so in this one, once we've made that payment to the supplier, we're automatically moving in the ERP an open payable to a special subledger account for card payments. This way you can easily see in your ERP the source of truth. What are all the invoices that are involved in a card payment? Now, when a payment's made to a supplier, in a perfect world, supplier gets the payment, they sell it to their bank account, and it should all be done. But it's not a perfect world, and for accounts payable, they have to make sure that that payment was truly received because it's still an open liability. This is one thing that Taulia does really well because we look at three different sources of data: the ERP, the card network, the issuing bank. We put it all in one view, one database, one source of truth that says, for every invoice that I've paid to every supplier with every card number, what is the status of that payment? And if the payment is complete, it's been settled, it's great. But if it's not, that gives an additional tool to accounts payable for who they should follow up with to make sure that the person they sent the original payment to actually had received it. Once that payment is settled, we automatically pull that status, and then we move it to another general ledger. This is the money owed to the bank. And the reason why we do this is because at the end of the month, the house bank is going to send a statement, a nice fat PDF, and maybe some Excel. And from here, the accounts payable team member is supposed to reconcile everything on the statement with what's in the ERP. And this process manually takes a lot of time. But With Taulia's automation, we automatically compare these two data sources, and then we look at it like a haystack that we're putting a magnet on top of, drawing out those little needles of outliers, additional fees, things that shouldn't be on that statement before it's paid. And so this is where when we look at the reconciliation process, it's full of opportunities for headaches, but if you have the right automation to put the payments in the right buckets and the right power tools to show status and do reconciliation, it can allow a card program to scale without the bigger pain.